All right. Hey there. Hi there. Ho there, everyone. It is the Four Color Cafe. But today we have found ourselves approaching our regular haunt and have found a closed sign on the door. Luckily, there are chairs and tables out front, and I decide that I'm going to go up and take a seat anyways because it's Wednesday night and this is where I hang out. I don't care if they're closed. But I then have some friends come up and join me. So, friends, introduce yourselves.
Should we start with me?
Sure.
Since I'm top center. Hi, I'm Griffith Morgan. I am a caustic old schooler. Who's next?
I'm Sean, creator and host of Mage's Musings, D&D talk show on YouTube. Well, D&D fun show, I guess. Not really a talk show, but yes.
All right, Cody.
Yeah, I'm GM Cody. I've got a very tiny YouTube channel where I do reviews. I was also known for the podcast Grognard Grumbles, where we talked about old school D&D. I'm an old school and new school fan. I just like gaming in general.
Len?
Hi, I'm Len. I write some games, and I hate following Cody because of his voice is just amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah.
I am jealous. Hi, this is Len. I'm following Cody and doing what I can. So
It's that fancy microphone.
Yeah, but we've also got Griff in the stream here, and I'm sorry, just the voiceover on Secrets of Blackmoor. Very, very nice. So,
thank you. Yeah, I forgot to do the whole thing where you have to like schlep your stuff, you know. But go watch the movie Secrets of Blackmoor. I missed that. I'm the director, or one of the directors.
And I will add a link to that in the description here in a bit. But man, so this is a little weird for me. I'm not used to being the host, especially for a large group of people. But we are going to have some fun. We're going to be talking today about being a player in a role-playing game. So many times I have seen all sorts of streams about running a game and creating, settings. But rarely do we talk about just being the person at the table. And I know for me, I always have a bad tendency about just being myself at the table. So I figured we'd talk about how can you actually, get into the role a bit more. And I probably have just covered the whole topic here very quickly, but
you guys get to be players?
Yeah, that's
not often. Not often.
I mean, I don't, but that would also require that I actually show up to a game at some point. But that's a separate issue. So, anyways, all right. Who wants to go first?
I can jump in here for a second and say we'll probably have to drill down a little bit, because when we're talking about being a player and being a good player, I think that's going to depend fairly dramatically on the kind of RPG that you're playing, right? Because being a good player in an old school D&D wilderness hex crawl or in an old school dungeon crawl, probably there's different things that you're expected to bring to the table than being a good player in like a 3-5 game, and definitely is a different thing that is expected than being, or in a Pathfinder 2e game, it definitely is a different thing than is expected in like a Powered by the Apocalypse, game where there's Pasión de las Pasiones, where you're basically playing a Spanish soap opera. Okay, there's going to be different expectations of what you need to be bringing to the table when you sit down to play Pasión de las Pasiones, as opposed to a BX D&D dungeon crawl or whatever else. And it's not genre specific only. It is system specific. It is what play means within that game. I think that's the first thing you got to look at.
All right.
Yeah, that was kind of, I wanted to can you clarify what you mean being a good player? Like, what specifically about playing are you talking about?
Well, so for me, the kind of the thought process I had going into this is, so this is a role-playing game. You're supposed to take on a persona that is not you. We are not necessarily all, a fighter or a wizard or the combat decker out of Shadowrun. We're humans. We are these individual people. So how can we actually get into the game and be the character that we've created, and not just take the character and put that onto ourselves? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're talking about mostly like the play acting side of it, like the personification.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be acting. I'm not saying, let's all, get out into community theater and
Right.
Put on the next great American play, but
Yeah, that's kind of my thing is always like, are people, I don't know, there's a lot of exaggerated play acting that goes on sometimes, and that can it can enhance the game, but it can also really slow it down. Like we literally have an actor in our gaming group. Like Michael Catlin used to be like, I think his big role was on a major soap opera internationally that was an American soap opera. And so we have to like beat him down a little bit. It's like Michael, because he just goes off. It's like suddenly we're in like an acting class on some sort of like, what did they call that acting? There's like an acting technique where it's like you treat it like it's real.
Method
Yeah,
acting.
method acting. Yeah, suddenly we're in a method acting class, and he's just gone off, and everybody's like, okay.
Well,
but
that can also elevate the others. You get the occasional
Yeah.
shy person. Somebody is doing the acting. They're just playing the role, and other people will come out of their shells too. So yeah, it can go any direction.
Yeah, but I think the quantity is the problem. It's if you're doing stuff and you're sort of, well, it depends on how you play. I tend to like a game that is really mission oriented, and so, and part of that is just because I don't have a lot of time to play, and so if somebody is sucking up all the air, then I got a problem, because it's just eating up my time, and I got a 4-hour block in every 2 weeks, and that's it. Give somebody 10 minutes of oration, and that's a lot of time,
Right.
I mean, that veers into good dungeon mastering. It's a good dungeon master will be able to put the brakes on that and continue to keep the flow of the game going.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do to do that? I mean, how do you stop that when you see it happening, or do you?
I let it play out as much as it needs to, but yeah, as a DM, I'll say okay, and moving on, or I'll try to shift the spotlight to somebody else, let them react, things like that. Depending on what's happening in the game, like there's so many variables here. You'll get characters in a town and they split up to go do different tasks, right? And you say, okay, team 1, what are you doing? They role play their bit. Team 2, what are you doing? Sometimes there's no role plays. Oh, I go to the store and buy X. Okay, well, you're done. Team 3, and then you get the actor doing his ham thing. It's like, all right, well, you've got your couple minutes of hamming. All right, we're back to team 1. That's a matter of just as a DM keeping the flow going and understanding the pace of the game and knowing your players. It certainly doesn't hurt to know your players.
But for what it's worth, since this is about being a good player, I do think there's something to be said for the fact that as a player, you need to be aware of the amount of air that you're consuming in the room.
Yes.
And I think that applies whether you're talking about doing it from an RP standpoint. If it's an RP heavy game where everyone really is very much trying to inhabit their characters' skins and act and think like their characters, and that's what people are going to do with their time, God bless it, that's fine. Or whether it's hey, we've got problems to solve, we got puzzles to get through, we got to get out of here with as few deaths as possible. You still can have one person who's doing all the thinking and all the talking, and either way, as the player, whether you're acting or thinking or whatever combination of playing, you have to note how much time am I. Even if you have the solution, maybe you just shh. see who else, let other people play.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I think.
know.
Or I was just going to interject. My big pet peeve is the fact that people refer to the play acting part of the game as role playing, and it's like everything you do in the role playing game is role
It's role
playing.
playing. Yeah.
If you say I listen at the door, or you're interacting with the environment. If you say I open the door, you're changing the environment. If you say I want to fight it, you're engaging in a role playing element. Or if you want to talk, hello wizard, we come from far away. You're role playing, you're play acting, but the play acting is part of the role playing. But it's the whole thing that encompasses what it is. So I always like to get very specific about, are we talking about the play acting, or are we talking about other elements of the role playing? I'm just going to throw that out there. Maybe you can even disagree with my definition. I don't care. It's an elf game. It's an elf game,
No, and I actually, Griff, I think you bring up a really good point. Is that yes, if as long as you are participating in the game, then yes, you are engaging in some sort of role playing. So I guess that's a good question of what does everybody think the minimum level of, I guess we'll say, for lack of a better way to put it in my head right now, what's the minimum level of play acting that everybody should be involved in? As far as, are you literally just describing your actions? Do you need to at least try to talk differently? What is the level of immersion you should take?
Well, some people aren't comfortable with the play acting aspect. You got to realize there's different kinds of, everybody's different and every player is different. And just because somebody plays differently doesn't make them a bad player. Some people just like the rules. They like building characters. They like the leveling up. They like that aspect. They like getting magic items, treasure, stuff like that. Some people that's all they like is the role playing, the play acting, if you will. Everybody's different, and some people play in between. And as a DM, even though we're talking about players, as a DM, you should realize what your players do and do not like, and try to, in my opinion, I always try to tailor the game for what that group's going to enjoy. I mean, I've played in groups before where they're not rolling dice at all. All they care about is the play acting, which is boring to me. I mean, I like play acting, but I still want to play a game. But some people are into that, they just they're totally into the play acting. Some people I've played with, they just play it like a board game. All they care about is go, literally just let's move around in a dungeon and kill monsters and get treasure and go to the town. And they're not doing any play acting. So I think, I don't think any of that's wrong. It's however, if you're having fun, that's great.
I like to straddle the line. I like the tactical and the board game as much as I like the role play, the acting. But I think from a general perspective, if you show up and you are immersed, you're committed to engaged in the game, you're 50% there. As opposed to, oh yeah, I'm sitting at the table, but I'm on my phone for half of it. Then, but if you're engaged, you don't have to go full tilt. As you say, you don't have to be a full-on actor. Just be engaged. Just be there, working with everybody else to play the game. And the other step of that, I would say, is, and this is important. This is something I try to beat out of my players, figuratively speaking, is try to be able to separate yourself from the character. A lot of players take their character work personally, and what happens to the character is a personal affront to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
I generally call it
didn't
avatar
Tom Hanks
style play.
cure us of this?
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that movie, so I think probably beyond this 5-panel, nobody saw that movie. I'm guessing, but
I could fly. I have spells.
Yeah.
I actually have not seen it. Just
You
Okay,
to see
so
it.
4 of us have seen it. Nobody else.
You have
yeah.
to see it. You have to see it.
I'm assuming
Which
we're talking
movie?
Cuddles and Trolls, right?
Mazes and Monsters.
No, no.
Mazes
Mazes and Monsters, baby.
Oh, really?
Mazes and Monsters.
I never have seen that.
Oh,
wow.
my God! You have
It's
to. It's a cultural touchstone of our community.
Based very loosely on
Well-
a true story.
I'm going to throw something out there. Like the elephant in the room, of course, is Critical Role. Like Critical Role, as far as I'm concerned, created a lot of unreasonable expectations about what role-playing games are, and it also created it just created a whole generation of kids that thought role-playing was mostly play acting. And and of course, I mean, I have no doubt that it's rigged so that everything that happens in the game is sort of somewhat pre-planned. It just looks too much like a cheap reality show to me.
At this point, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever. If you have fun watching it, don't scream at me in the comments. I don't care, but I do think that, and a lot of people have said like, "Oh, it's so great! It's done so much for the hobby," and I don't really care because I don't see it in our numbers. I doubt anybody who, Tunnels and Trolls is an actual RPG. It's a really good one. I don't think anybody who's into that show is like, gonna watch the movie we made. They're into a whole different thing,
But they should watch.
I think there's a lot of overlap, though. No, I know a lot of older folks who are. You're certainly closer to my generation than a lot of the younger folks, I think, who are watching the.
Might be older than you. Yeah.
But maybe a touch, but we're probably closer than like the 20-year-olds. How about that? Who are watching Critical Role.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of folks who do both. You know what I mean? Who watch Critical Role, but they don't expect to do that. I'm sorry to use the crass analogy here on this, but I've heard, I didn't make it up, but I'm like, wow, that's on point, which is Critical Role is to role playing like pornography is to sex. I mean, it's
just another thing. Yeah.
It's
titillating.
I was about to say, it's I guess entertaining to watch, but don't expect that.
Right. It's not going to be the same at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think that is one key factor is that there can be unreasonable expectations put on the players. There's sometimes they come in thinking, okay, I have to do all the play acting. I have to do who was it that said it earlier? Doing the funny voice doing the voice acting. But what are things I guess we could say that we should encourage to try and push a little bit more role playing?
Ooh.
Just start thinking. I try to do this with my players. Newer players at least. It's okay to make decisions that you wouldn't make. Step outside of yourself, even if it seems illogical to you. It might be logical to your character. So you get if you're playing a character who's a fanatic, and you are absolutely atheist in real life, it's okay to dive into that fanaticism and do crazy things. Step outside of yourself. I know it sounds simple, but that's a big one for a lot of people.
That actually kind of becomes a conflict when people use that as an excuse for like, I decided to attack a party member and kill them, And it's like, why did you do that? It's because my character would do that. And it's like, well, we need to
defense. Yeah.
We need to metagame a little bit here and agree that you're not going to attack other people in the room because the dungeon master is there to provide that for you. I don't know. You probably all agree with that, but
no.
No.
And if that's
it depends
the table,
on the game.
It depends on the game. If the table parameters, if everybody the table agreement is saying no attacking each other, yeah, absolutely. But depends on the game you're playing. I often have run games with evil characters and evil players, and they plot to backstab each other. Everybody's in on it. The buy-in is there, so it's all good. But yeah, if you get players who are not into
something like that.
Oh, even D&D. Like D&D is my thing.
One of
the games I recapped on my channel was an Assassin's Guild, and they culminated in half the group trying to betray the rest and make off with the loot. It was a lot of fun. Everybody laughed. But yes, you can't just do that. You can't just use an excuse. The table parameters have to be there.
You have to establish the expectations that you're going to have.
In my case, the buy-in was there. Everybody was okay with it. But but at the same time, you do want people to think from the point of view of their character and within the parameters established by the group. And that helps them get out of their heads. Because a lot of people, they take it personally. Like they get so immersed in their character, it becomes an extension of them. And
Yeah.
that can derail a game. Like a character dies, and it's like, oh my god, like they either have a meltdown or they get upset. And I've seen grown men cry because their beloved character died, and I'm like, it's a game. Make a new character.
Well, I think that's a problem too. Is like, if you create a situation where you have inter-party conflict, that's going to be a problem. Unless it's like you're saying, really expected up front. But a lot of people may not have the experience of dealing with that. I mean, if it's just a sudden, like halfway through the game session, like you got killed by one of your party members out of nowhere.
Well, even outside of that, people who are so attached to their characters, and let's remove interparty conflict from the equation. There's still the risk of death and failure. And I've seen people melt down because they didn't win.
Yeah, right? I've seen it many times.
Well, and that might be a generational thing too, because I think the older games tend to have a lot more brutality. And right up front, a dungeon master is going to establish that, like, hey kids, this isn't like the supermarket that you're wandering through. You go to like reach for that thing and it might reach back for you. And so it's always about establishing the boundaries or the expectations and the boundaries within that, I think.
Yes. No. Well, that's a given, I think. Well, it should be a given, but I guess it wouldn't always be.
These games, I think, unlike almost any other game we play, inherent in the rule, there's an entire separate set of rules that aren't anywhere in the rules, and that is the underlying social contract of the game, which needs to be expressly understood by all the people, and even the fact that it's there in play, and that includes things exactly like what you guys are talking about, and a million other things. And by the way, there's an asterisk here I'm going to drop here, and we're just going to have to sail right past it, because this is a topic, I think, for an entirely different 2 hours or whatever. But that is, quote, it's just a game. I'm going to stop here and just say, I don't know how many YouTube channels there are with a bunch of men and women our age sitting around talking every week about Monopoly or Sorry. So, who've been playing the same game since they were 7 years old or 11 years old or whatever. So, no, it's not. There is something unique and core, the combination of storytelling and whatnot. Our hobby is a weird little thing that is not just an anything. There is something unique, which we can go into in a whole other time. That is not to say a grown adult melting down when their character dies is reasonable. But we've all seen it.
Yeah.
We've all seen it. But that's an entirely different conversation about the nature of our hobby and the sort of nugget of magic inherent within it. But that's a whole different conversation. My 2 cents on that. So,
well, I wanted to say, unrelated to it, is all these aspects we're talking about are the marks of a good player. But the other thing is, if you are a good player, and when I'm playing in a game, I'm not like, oh, I'm the greatest role player ever. Not saying that, but I've played a lot of role playing games, and I've played for a long time. I'm a DM, so if I'm in a group and I can see there's a lot of new players around me or weaker players, I try to push the spotlight to them.
Somebody else here.
We have to welcome the bear.
This is an interesting thing you're doing here. I like this. This is neat. What is this called?
Everybody, I was trying to let Cody finish his point, and so I got distracted. So, Cody, I will admit I missed half of what you said. I'm very sorry, but
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Basically, what I was saying is, if you're a good player, you should encourage other players to be better as well. You should you give them you push them in that direction. Give them the spotlight when opportunities show up. Hey, what do we do? I don't know. What do you think we should do? You point to them, the shyest, weakest player in the group. To me, that's what I always do. I try to give the spotlight to everybody else to make them a stronger player and encourage them to make them a better player. The other thing I was going to say is, inter-player conflict can be really good if it's done right. Yeah, and I have a good story about that. I'll save it for later.
It's organic, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, back to the role-playing thing. I am peddling product, but I'm not trying to peddle it right now. But when we wrote this book here,
what book is that?
The Lost Dungeons of Tonisborg.
Interesting.
One of the things that Dan and I talked about and wrote in there, there was a discussion about specifically the play acting portion. I mean, we go through everything we can think of to cover how to run a game and how to encourage players to be in your game. And there's a section in there about the play acting. And what we propose is that it's not necessary to be a play actor, but there are certain things you can teach players or you can model for players. And actually, like, I mean, I see a lot of people since the dawn of time who do the, I call it the Renfest language. Mm-hmm. And Renfest language is like this sort of pretend Old English that if it was real Old English, you would not understand a word. But it's all like, good sir. Oh, Lord, good sir. But if you read fantasy books, for the most part, they don't use Renfest language. They use common language. It's like they are translated from the imaginary, past time into the present. And the characters, or even a sci-fi book, and the characters generally use real language because that's the best way to talk to each other if we're here in the modern world. And there are like little tricks. Like, I think the big problem, people don't know how to switch. Switching is a big problem. Okay. Like, one minute you're saying, okay, my character's lighting a torch. And then you go straight from into that. And you're like, so where's the evil castle? And it's like, so you can do things like, I turn to the wizard, where's the evil castle? Right. So that you're cueing each other by naming each other. I turn towards Cleel, do you think we're going to be safe for the next hour? Little things like that. And you don't have to use an acting voice to do it. And it enhances the experience for everybody because now you're talking to each other as your characters. You don't need any affectations or anything, but hey, Cleel, what's going on? Cleel knows, like, oh, he's addressing me when he said what's going on, and I'm supposed to respond. I'm just going to throw that out as a suggestion for improved role playing.
All right. I want to jump on what Griffith just said with 2 points. One, the translating to modern vernacular is something Tolkien did, right? It is Thursday, the 26th of October. You're at the House of Healing. Hey, October? Really? Octavius was an emperor in the history of Middle Earth? What?
Right.
Thor's kicking around as a god, but it was he chose to do that to make it understandable for the reader. The idea in his mind and from his notes was that he was relating to you by giving you real world dating so that way you would understand in your brain what it was, which is fine. Mm-hmm. The second thing, what you're talking about, the I turn to him and say stuff, that's fine. At my tables, I encourage people to role play in the way they role play, right? So I've had a game of newbies where I had the theater kids for sure who were like, oh, forsooth and verily, therefore, I shall. And then I had the tactical guys who were more video gamers who were like, so I go to the bartender and I ask him where the thing is, and I allowed both to exist. And one thing
I certainly do as well, yeah.
Well, the thing I noticed is over time, I go to the bartender and ask him where the thing is, players started to find a voice for their characters and become more engaged and become more theatrical and more thing. And that's fun. And it's a good time. And I like that. It's fun stuff. Okay, there we go. I just, had to say something. Now I'm going to go back to being quiet because, Cody has the best voice in the world.
Bear's not really here. He's a figure.
I'm not here. I'm a ghost. I'm hibernating right now, so I'm not even.
As a ham who loves to do accents, both good, bad, and mediocre, I disagree, and I agree. I agree with your sentiment, but I also love to do the wacky voices. So it's
Listen, I'm trying to figure out how to create an entire. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it with mages in my world, or I'm going to pick a particular country, but somewhere in my world, the Mid-Atlantic accent has to exist now. I've decided this. And again, I don't know if it's going to be about. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't bother him about this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Didn't we discuss this the other day? It was going to be the elves who had that accent.
Yeah, we were talking about that. That'd be too funny.
Get your booze, boys. We have to go get those orcs.
Wait till I introduce you to what the people from the desert sound like.
I don't think the people from the desert sound like dead paint.
I don't know. I think I'm playing them. So guess what?
I think I'm kicking you out of the game, Len. That part where I said it's a serious campaign world.
Oh no! Once you say it's a serious campaign world, that's it. It's gone out the window.
No, not usually with most players. Most players are respectful of such things. Only the troublemakers don't respect such requirements.
So, and I think those are actually some really good points. Is that the players honestly, should be encouraging everyone to get a little bit more into their roles. It doesn't have to just come from the game master. Another question I guess I would ask is there anything you think mechanically, like that's actually built into the game, that can help push that or help push the role playing as well?
Yes. Not even a question. There's not even the slightest question that the answer is yes, depending on the game. Depending on the game. You take a game like Dungeons and Dragons and trying to layer things that'll push the RP in one direction or another can feel like clunky add-ons because that's not structurally what the game is about. Now, on the other hand, you go in a different direction. You go with a PBTA, one of those Powered by the Apocalypse games, where literally the interaction, the characters interacting with one another and what they do with one another and how they interact with one another has mechanical effects on their ability to influence one another in the future. There's modifiers. Some of the games use something called strings, where the nature of your communication leads to a modifier applicable to the mechanics at play in the moment. And it's not just something as simple as good speech +1. The rules are a little bit better thought out. There's a little bit more complexity to them and a little bit more interfacing with them. Harry mentioned Masks. Masks does this very well. The answer is yes. The caveat is it depends on the game.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think it doesn't depend on the system. I mean, yes, systems can or cannot have mechanics that will encourage role playing, but I honestly think if you get the right group of people together, they'll role play playing Pop-O-Matic Trouble. It's just the way it is.
Sure.
And that's just the nature of the beast. So I mean, Christ, me and my old roommate back in the 90s, when we used to play Wildstorms, the card game, we'd role play while we were playing it. We'd be doing character voices and having a grand old time, Even when we played Magic, we'd do that. So yes, there are games that encourage it. I don't like most of them, to be quite honest. I call them I've always referred to them as the talking stick games, or I have the conch. It's my turn. Be quiet. I have the conch now. I've tapped my aspect to have the conch, and I just can't stand games like that personally. I'm not judging the quality of them. Everyone claws in. But I don't think a game that doesn't have that necessarily discourages role playing. So that's my shitty half answer for you.
Right. Well, I think we can all agree that we don't want to impose anything specific, and every group is going to a play style every group is unique in their play style and what they're comfortable with, and it kind of evolves. It's like a group thought sort of thing. Like you described, playing with a bunch of kids that were totally thespians, and everybody was going nuts on the thespian thing, and it's like, well, that's kind of their group culture that's evolving in that session.
Paige or Sean?
Repeat the question.
Is there anything mechanically that should be used to help encourage role playing?
Well, I mean, speaking as an AD&D'er, I'm a big fan of the social rules in the older systems. You have actual use for charisma that isn't combat based. Stuff like that will make a huge difference. And what I tell my players, even somebody with a low charisma can still act charming and charismatic. It's the dice that are going to determine, what the response is. So, people who think they're charming, the dice say otherwise, right?
Oh, that would be Len. I'm being salty. I'll stop.
So I think a good social system will encourage that. You'll get people actually playing roles, and then the DM can handle the reactions of the NPCs and such. So that definitely helps.
I mean, that's not like I guess charisma is kind of like a role for reactions and things when you're running
that's primarily
how they'll
for
behave towards you. Yeah, I mean, if you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with Empire of the Petal Throne. Which
absolutely.
Of course got canceled to the ether by everybody because it turned out that Phil Barker was kind of into some weird stuff. But it's still a brilliant game, and it has social class and and clan and temple, and you know, the way you associate with people comes out of these like really nuanced cultural aspects. And it's not really ruled. It's just if you play with a group of EPT players, they all just start to get into it. And it's like, you know, what does he look like? Well, he's wearing red and kind of has this weird flame-like thing on his head, and you know, looks like a worshiper of Vimula. Oh, you know, I got to be careful around him. He's from that other group, you know. And oh, he's in a warrior clan. He's got all this armor. Uh-oh, you know. That tells me a lot of stuff too.
Harry Bell says something here. He says many GMs give out rewards for good role playing. I used to absolutely do that. What I found though was, because as a DM, at least me, with my limited shot glass of a brain, I can only think about so many things at once. And judging role playing in the moment is usually not one of them. And that's why I kind of gave up on rewards for good role playing, and I just stick with a codified system of reaction. I mean, after the fact, I can think about it, and that's what ended up happening when I was running second ed and giving good role playing awards. It'd be, you know, 2 days later, I was thinking about the sessions. Oh wait, that was a good choice. I should give him another couple hundred XP. But I never do it in the moment, and that's sort of problematic for me, at least.
But is that for the play acting or for just good play in general?
I generally, when it comes to role-playing bonuses, it would be whether or not they adhere to their character, alignment was a factor, things like that. It's not just the quality of how they act, but the choices they made in the context.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's actually one thing that I was going to bring up, and kind of what got me thinking about the topic in general. Is alignment systems. Now, a lot of people don't like them, but something like the Palladium alignment system, where, you know, it instead of like I'll be honest, I've never really understood the D&D alignment system, but the Palladium one, where it's like, hey, this is your character, and these are the kinds of things your character would do. You know, what about you? What about those? How effective, or I guess how important would you say those are? Bear, who wants to interrupt?
The D&D grid, right?
Yeah.
What the biggest mistake I find most people make with the D&D grid, and I'm not championing it at all, is that you have the two axes, right? They meet at neutral, and you have law and chaos, and you have good and evil. And the top down is meant to be your view on society, and the horizontal is meant to be your moral compass. And people tend to forget that a lot of the time. They tend to forget that the law chaos aspect is meant to be how you see society, how you see civilization, and how you interact with, say, authority figures or merchants or whatever. Like your buy-in for the social contract. This is why you'll see many people avoid the lawful aspect of things, because they think lawful means, you know, Puritan. It's not. It means I play in society, which is why lawful evil's best description is diabolical. It is the idea of Satan himself making a deal with you and giving you a contract that is the letter of the law. And this is the contract that he's going to work within. He's not going to break the law. He's not going to abuse the law. He's going to play the law to his advantage and take advantage of you, because his moral compass is evil. And once I had a better understanding of that, I had a much more entertaining time looking at alignments as something to play, because they suddenly gave me really good guidance. And there are a lot more lawful people than there are chaotic people. Sadly, most gamers want to be Robin Hood, right? The law is wrong and I have to break it, but I'm going to be a good guy, so I'm going to be chaotic good. Or I'm a completely self-absorbed, do what I want, don't care about anybody, chaotic neutral. Chaotic neutral is not self-absorbed, do what you want. That's neutral. You don't care for the law. Chaotic means you fucking oppose the law. You do not like the law, and you are going to try and break it whenever you can. How far you go will depend on the good, neutral, evil aspect. At least that's my take. Palladium offers you far more controlled this, which I like, by the way. But I think the two could work together very well.
Bear, you literally made that make sense to me.
Yay! I helped.
Anyone
I
else?
think I think exactly because of what Bear explained. I think the D&D alignment system, if you want to use it, and I completely understand people who are just like, it's just not relevant for us in our games, which is perfectly fine. It poses some problems in a fantasy world where concepts like actual good and evil have some mechanical meat to them. But that aside, I know a lot of people, someone else mentioned Full Metal, mentioned, the Palladium system has a better alignment system because it's more nuanced in its description. And I humbly disagree. I get where you're going in terms of that description. And the Palladium does have a little bit more texture in terms of the different options and so on. But you could go a whole lot farther in terms of a deep dive, in terms of personality aspects that determine whether the character is kind of a good guy or kind of a schlub. I think the D&D thing works. The reason we see memes now about D&D, the reason you can talk to people on the street who aren't really followers, and they'll get some of our weird little religion, and they will have some sense of good and evil and law and chaos. I think Gygax accidentally stumbled backwards into genius a couple of times, and I think the alignment system was sort of one of them. Not to say it's the best thing ever, but there is something intuitively effective about it when you actually understand what Bear described. Whether or not you precisely agree with him, but generally, that once you get it, that simple 3x3 structure, it's very hard to find a character who you can't very cleanly go, pop, that's where they go. Two people may disagree, but they will disagree stridently based on their understanding of the 3x3 structure. Whereas anything else, it gets kind of, the Palladium system, there's a little bit of muddiness between scrupulous and virtuous, and I don't remember what, delicious and chocolatey with a creamy nougaty center. I don't remember all the
Wow,
other.
yeah, I want to be that. I want to be that.
I remember as a kid, we were always anarchists when we played Palladium.
That's right, anarchist. Yeah.
See, I would disagree. I just think that the alignment system is just a bunch of garbage, and it was garbage when it was created, and it's garbage that there's a lot of stuff in D&D that's just garbage. It's like a bad computer program. It's like Facebook, we got this giant thing, and we just keep adding code, and there's this code that's just hanging out there that's just garbage, but we don't get rid of it. And I kind of use it, but I just ignore it. I think it's good for players to sort of get a sense of where they might be as far as personal outlook toward the world. I think there are a lot of, but you also have to understand I'm like totally anti-advanced. I'm like old gamer. I play OD&D. I do not play, and I play Holmes. When it comes to D&D, I'll play other games too. But I think that I don't know. I just think that the alignment system is crap. It's always been crap, which is why I quit playing D&D when AD&D came out. I was just like, this is all Greyhawk system, and it's garbage, and it doesn't work for me. I'm going to go play. We've started playing Empire of the Petal Thrones with home-ruled Melee and Wizard, the fantasy trip, before it was even released as In the Labyrinth, because we were just like, AD&D sucks, man. So
you and I are totally on opposite ends of the planet.
Seriously. I know. Get out of here. He's crazy when he's like this.
I just like to throw that out. I promised I would
get angry,
I promised I would get caustic if I came on the show, and so that's my shtick.
I don't judge people for their experiences and views. I love the 9-point alignment system because it ties into what I was saying earlier about helping people get out of their head. It's like you can make a choice. Yes, you think something is particularly bad or evil, but your character may not. And the alignment is a guide. It's a great guide for helping people get out of their head and make decisions that are not them.
And first appears in Holmes, right? And this guy.
I think
Am I
it's
right?
in
Holmes
Obi.
uses 5-point. I think Holmes uses, and I apologize, I think Holmes uses 5-point alignment, but
So
I
it's
made
got
a mistake.
well, it's kind of like it's not really a Venn diagram. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. That's Holmes.
Okay, listen, Len, there's also the in-between spaces, so it's more like a 9 point because of the spaces between your little Venn diagram circles. So stop doing your victory dance, Len.
Yeah.
But isn't it? But those between, you got to pick one of the ones that are in the thing. It's like lawful good, lawful evil, chaotic good, chaotic evil, or neutral.
Yeah. But you had also neutral. Didn't we have also neutral good and neutral evil? I mean, like
That's an advanced.
a leaning
In AD&D,
toward.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just stopped using alignment, to be honest. Even though I can explain it and all that, I just stopped using it, and I wrote the same thing in all my house rules. Your character's actions will determine how the world sees you. Simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but
And okay, but
couldn't so back to the topic, couldn't the alignment be used to help a player figure out how they want to role play?
no,
It's an excellent
I'll
question.
say no. I'll say no.
I'll say absolutely yes.
I'll say absolutely yes.
Lawful
to it.
good does not impose personality upon someone.
No,
Chaotic evil
that's
does not
true. I
impose
agree with
personality
that
upon someone.
statement.
There, I agree.
But having the moral and ethical compass will guide your choices.
Oh,
right?
sure.
And
But-
two lawful goods will not necessarily make the same choices, but still remain in the parameters of lawful and good.
Does two lawful goods create a chaotic evil? That's what I want.
Yes. 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 And yes, and that was basically Churchill and Roosevelt creating Stalin. That's how that happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Historical precedent.
Yeah.
But so no, that's the true neutral creating the balance.
No, that was Canada. That was Leonard B. Pearson.
Two lawful goods exist, therefore the true neutral is like, okay, we've got to find a couple of chaotic evils to keep this thing equal here.
See, I disagree with that. I disagree with the idea that true neutrals are seeking balance. I don't agree with that presentation. I know
Nor do
it's
I.
a trope, but I
That-
just don't agree with it. I think true neutrals don't give a fuck about law or chaos. They
No,
give a
I
fuck
agree.
about what they're doing, and like
And-
how they behave.
The
Otherwise,
alignment
it's-
system, I think, I like to break it down between two. There's the cosmological and then the practical. And that's, again, two different approaches. The true neutral from a cosmological perspective is trying to maintain that balance. But the true neutral from the practical is, you're right, is they don't care. They're just doing their thing. They exist to exist. Popeye, I am what I am. Right? An animal is like it has no moral or ethical considerations in its actions. It eats because it is hungry. It finds shelter because it's tired. They don't think about the morality. That is the practical. Whereas you get the druids, who are priests, and to them the cosmos must maintain a balance. So they are thinking about the balance because that is a tenet of their faith. But both are true neutral.
Sure, but
Does that make any
works
sense?
Well, now we're getting all like.
But again,
Yeah.
it's not the alignment that's dictating anything. It's the career, being a druid. I must have balance because I'm a druid, and that is my methodology.
But the two are tied together.
But what about in my world? If I want druids to be pricks who are like, "Fuck you! I don't like that you're cutting down trees for your houses. I don't like that you're digging. You're raping the earth every time you plow a field, and you're cutting her open to plant seeds in her. So I'm going to burn your shit down. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to side with the elves who hate you, and we're going to light everything on fucking fire all the time. Is that guy neutral alignment all of a sudden?
Well, you're now expanding options, right?
When do I get a
game
detect
should bend
neutral
for the
spell?
world? Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to know when I get to have detect neutral spell.
What makes a man go neutral?
When you get a high enough level to research magic, and you can spend the money and research it.
Or
Tell my
detect
wife I
lawful or
say
detect
hello.
chaotic. You know. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I like
You wanna
arson
chime in?
druids. They're going in my world now. Thank you, Brian.
Oh, we could go over this whole like detect or not detect. The alignment thing is almost a whole show unto itself. I mean,
No, right now we're going to solve the whole alignment. It's not like anyone else has ever discussed alignment. So
No,
right
it's a
now,
brand new
I think
topic.
the six of us
Are we
can
solving it
button this
tonight?
whole thing up
they just burn
in
all
like-
those AD&D books like they
in
did
like 15
Satanic
minutes. We'll button it up in
Oh,
about
that's
15
fighting
minutes,
words.
and we'll wrap it
I
up.
know.
It'll be done.
I know.
Brian, what have you done with my show, man? Jesus Christ.
Hey, I said we were only going to do this if you were okay with it. So you approved
I
it.
was okay with it until you let Len run unfettered naked through a field like a child with fireworks.
Fair, there's
never
a fair
good
chance
idea.
this channel is going to be a smoking ruin by the time you get back to it.
I'm good,
Hey.
man. Don't worry.
Hey, we're doing this on my channel, and
Yes.
Bear hasn't linked it over to his. I told him
Because
he
I'm
could do
on
it.
hiatus.
He's on
I
hiatus.
cannot be broadcasting it for the
Clearly.
next 2 weeks. I'm on hiatus.
That's
Clearly
fine.
you're
I
on
can't be a guest. That doesn't mean I can't show up and talk to people.
And actually, real quick, because again, we're on Gaming with ADHD, so we're going to run it my way. I do
Yes.
apologize for not officially inviting you, Bear. I thought you wanted to stay hibernating, so
No, I just don't want to
know.
produce anything for the couple of weeks. That's it. I just want to be like a fucking citizen for a couple of weeks. You know?
hey, that's
Citizen
fine.
Bear.
I'm
Citizen
glad
Bear,
you're here. Anyway.
it's my new RPG. It's coming out next month.
Citizen
From,
Just-
Bear. Yeah.
Flying
Just as a-
Asshole Games.
A last comment. If you look at the there, I don't know if it's very in focus.
That's the OD&D book, right?
Yeah, OD&D.
Yeah.
It only has law, neutrality, and chaos.
And chaos, the three, the
And-
basic systems
and-
are like that.
Yeah, and I think at EPT, use this. I think it might have been like change, stability, and change, or something like that. Anyway, and I don't think it even allowed neutrality. It was just like either you're on our side or you're on the other side.
Is that because he was basing it off Elric at the end of the day, though? The laws and chaos thing.
Yeah, I think he was basing it off of. Is it that or
Elric.
is it Elric? Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
it's for sure in Stormbringer because there's the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos, right?
I always get it confused because isn't there like the magic coming out of something like 3 hearts and 3 lions or something like that?
Well, there's the Beast Lords, and then you have the Eternal Champion shit. It just gets into
I
a
don't
convoluted.
remember all that
I'm on
stuff.
LSD writing mess, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do people role play?
Correctly.
With alignment.
With alignment.
Does everybody just hold up a card with their alignment and then they just fight it out? And that's like the first part of the session.
Only on Sundays, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just tell my players, well, choose the alignment you want and do your best to
Yeah.
play it. And I don't, nobody has to broadcast it, but they suss each other out.
Yeah.
I disagree.
That's
think
part of
we've
the
all
fun.
been doing this. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just saying that's part of the fun. Is like, don't divulge your alignment. Suss each other, except for the paladin. Everybody knows what alignment he is, but
Well, should. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Modern day, it's like do whatever you want. I mean, heck, you can be a paladin without anybody to worship. So,
Right.
according to some games.
Yeah.
well, I run Griffith's favorite system. I run AD&D, so paladins have to be lawful good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
True.
thankfully
And
they're
and
lawful
clerics
good.
of a sword god have to
They-
use maces.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
exactly.
self-righteous good is what more like or self-righteous. I don't know.
They can be self-righteous.
Self-righteous.
This dovetails us right back to role playing.
Bombastic. Yeah, but you tell somebody no. I agree. I mean, alignment sort of works. I kind of fudge it. I sort of hate it.
I think
Harry
we've all
Bell's
been
statement.
playing for a little while. And so our sense of whether alignment is helpful for role playing might be a touch different than that of a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old who is new to the hobby.
You
Yeah.
think?
And so therefore, while alignment, a few people I've heard have talked about alignment a little bit in the history of the hobby. But I think it'd be hard to argue that for someone who's new, who's learning strength, dexterity, constitution, or if you really were lucky, strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. The fact of the matter is it can help. It's not determinative, but alignment can probably help. So as a tool to help, the subject of the herding the cats back into the pen here, can alignment help for RP? I think it can help. And can it hinder if either the player or the GM is wildly stringent? Well, of course it can, because it's an artificial construct on something as complicated as what's your character like.
You touched on something I like though, the grappling with strength, dexterity, constitution, all that fun stuff. My favorite fantasy book, which I've said before, is The Sleeping Dragon by Joel Rosenberg, where it's about basically D&D players getting sent to a magical world. Okay. But at the beginning of the book, when he's introducing the girl to the game that he's never played before, and he's breaking down her character stats, and he gets to intelligence and wisdom, she's like, well, aren't those the same thing? And he's like, no. Intelligence would be, and I think I can't remember we said like Einstein or something like that. Wisdom, Edith Bunker. And it's with that little moment, with that little description of what the two differences between intelligence and wisdom is, regardless of the word games we want to play, it provides you role-playing cues right there. Because you can go, wise people versus book. And we all know in our lives, we know book smart people and we know street smart people. And
right.
Not often are they the same person, so that makes sense.
Originally, the stats were totally different. I think wisdom originally was cunning.
Oh, yeah?
Before the game was even released. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Oh, by the way, hi, we haven't met. I'm Bear.
No, we haven't met. I read your name, so I know who you are.
Well,
it's on the screen right there.
Well, I know your name's Griffith Morgan, so that,
you just
whatever.
Bear, Griff is the director of Secrets of Blackmore.
Which is?
The documentary.
It's some dumb movie. You don't want to see it. It's terrible.
All right, then I won't watch it since you sold me Doctor.
Yeah.
Bear, Griff is just as good at promoting his stuff as you are.
Yeah,
I'm with you then. Absolutely.
Wait, no, you got to keep them apart.
Really
you got to keep them apart. That's like, that's going to implode the universe if they come too close to each other.
No. Len's here. Len offsets us with his just amazing self-promotion.
Spread them apart.
Really? Maybe you can give us some pointers.
No, I don't want them. I'm good. I'm really good.
No, I mean Len could give us some pointers.
No, I don't want to be a self-promoter. I'm good the way I am.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
He does. Bear doesn't have to self-promote Len because Bear is a subsidiary of Lakeside Games.
Yes, that's right. Zenith Entertainment Group is a paid subsidiary of Lakeside Games. Thank you. Please pick up Prowlers and Paragons, Black Star, Buy This Axe I Hack, They're in Hack Again. And
the check is in the mail.
His laundry list is one of the greatest role-playing games you'll ever play, obviously, because Len wrote it.
Hey, Cody, you haven't chimed in for a bit. What do you think?
Well, I'm just letting these guys argue. It's quite entertaining. So I don't really give a fuck about alignment, to be honest. Even though I love old school D&D. When you're playing D&D, though, alignment is baked into the game. You have to have it there. So, if you're playing AD&D, you have to have it there because you have spells, you have clerics, you have druids, you have all these things that align. If you can change those things, but you're going to have to change house rules. You're going to have some house rules to make it work. Yeah. So you're changing the whole paradigm of D&D if you take out alignments. Now, I've played plenty of games without alignments, and it works just fine. Everybody knows that dude's he's an evil fucker, or that dude's just chaotic, or this guy's, he's the knight in shining armor. Yeah. So you don't need alignment. I don't really care. In D&D, when I was younger, I used to really heavily enforce it because I thought that was part of the game. I was like, no, you're lawful good. You're a Boy Scout. You have to do you would do this.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older. Yeah, right. Yeah. Lawful stupid. That's the old joke. But as I've gotten older, I'm much more lax on alignment. And I really don't have any stake in the argument, to be honest. I really don't care.
Look, here's a fun one to teach role-playing to a player. Sorry, Griff, I just got to get this out before we get too far away from it. The Detect Evil of the Paladin, or the Detect Alignment spell of whoever, right?
That's where I was going to go, but go ahead.
You want to fuck with your players? You want to teach them how to role-play? Have them so they're at the court of the king or the lord or the count or the viscount or the baron or the duke or whatever the fuck. And they know someone in here is a traitor who's evil. And of course, they can't, I must taste that bone. I must cast this spell. Have 5 fucking evil people in that room. Not 4 of them aren't fucking conspirators. 4 of them are not conspirators at all. One of them is, but now they've got 5 targets they've got to start investigating and figuring out.
Right.
And after they've spent 3 sessions running all over town chasing the guy who's evil because he cuts fucking coins from the coffers and uses them to pay prostitutes, they're going to realize maybe I shouldn't just rely on a fucking no alignment spell to do shit. Maybe they'll become better at thinking.
But see, what you just described is great gaming.
Right.
Like, that's great gaming. That you've just created a scenario where the players have to do something, have to earn it, they have to explore.
You and
Thank
I are
God for the alignment system.
You've given them the red herrings in the mystery.
So Sean and I are literally England and Canada two countries separated by a common language. You understand? Like, we absolutely love role playing. We can talk about it for hours, but we are like two different versions of it all the time. I love that, man. That's awesome. And we're both Canadians. So that's the fun part.
I mean,
No,
we
I was just-
tolerate that.
I was just going to say about the alignment thing. I think where I keep waffling. It's like, oh, do I play it the way I'm supposed to play it out of the rules, or do I do something else? But I get into these limitations, like you're talking about, with like, is the detect evil spell like being like my little water dousing rod where I can home in on the evil person, right? And so I've kind of revamped all of that stuff, and I treat it as detect malevolence and a malevolent thought. Like, an animal can't have malevolent thoughts, and it kind of goes right with D&D. An animal is neutral; it won't be evil. But the idea of like inherent. The reason I did that sort of semantically is because the idea of someone being like, I don't know, containing evil, like a goblin that is lawful evil emanates evil, right? And it's like, that's kind of weird. And so I kind of broke it up, and so I have my supernatural creatures, which really do emanate evil. Like a Balrog would be something that just, I don't know what it is about it. It's something it's a demon. A ghost or a wight or something is something supernatural. An orc or a goblin, they're just kind of like conniving and grumpy.
That's by the book AD&D. By
Right.
the book AD&D,
Yeah.
you just don't
It could be.
radiate evil just because you're evil. There has to be a certain power level attached to it.
Right,
Supernatural
right.
evil always radiate. A goblin just sitting around having a drink is not going to radiate evil unless he's about to do something evil, and then
Yeah.
What if he
that
stole the
becomes his,
drink?
yeah. If he's maybe if he's.
I guess I just didn't change the semantics to make it a little easier for me to kind of wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be
There's evil
spirit
in
of
the
the
real world, and it is malevolence.
Yeah.
And if
There's
you
a great
change
Doctor
it-
Who quote: "There's not a lot of evil in the universe, but there is a lot of hunger, and whether or not that hunger is evil depends on which end of the cutlery you're on."
Wow, that's excellent. Yeah.
Which Doctor is that?
Capaldi.
No, I never watched that series. I like Capaldi though. Lair of the White Worm was the first movie I ever saw him in. Anyway,
Ooh,
yeah,
Lair of the White Witch. Did you just say that?
Lair of the White Worm.
With
What's
Hugh
his
Grant.
White Worm or White Witch? Lair of the White,
White Worm.
It's-
White Worm.
Isn't that movie by what's his name?
Um,
That campy movie.
it's campy as fuck, but it's got Amanda Donohoe in it, so I'll watch it 7 times.
Yeah.
You're talking about the one that also had Hugh
Lair of
Grant,
the White
right?
Worm. Yeah, that one's great. Yeah.
What's it? It's what the hell's the name of the director? Ken Russell.
All of his
Ken
movies
Russell
are
film.
really
So,
interesting. Yeah.
Capaldi's in it as a young, thin, and he seems tall by comparison to everybody else in the fucking movie, and he's really good. So when I found out he was the Doctor, I'm like, really? That should be interesting. And then I missed the whole goddamn series. But yeah, no. Okay, if you get into the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, you can argue endlessly about alignment and role playing and charisma and intelligence, and you can argue this shit till the end of time, and people have for 50 fucking years.
Right.
But if you get into the spirit of it and just go with the flow, you're gonna have a lot more fun because it's gonna be more surprising, more interesting, and more fluid. I think.
I would say you do need that kind of as a social construct. Somebody just mentioned it's a social construct, the idea of good and evil, right? It's always where you stand, who's evil and who's good. But it is a great motivator for creating, motivating a group to work together as a, there's this evil in the land and you have to go figure out what it's doing. It's over there, just on a really basic level. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the idea of good guys, bad guys is kind of the beauty of it. It's kind of, it makes things simple. Real life isn't that simple,
And your game may not be real life. You may be playing in a fairy tale by choice.
Yeah.
Nine. And I think that's perfectly okay if that's what, when you're playing. Superhero games are the same. You could be playing in a world of shades of gray and so on. You could be playing in your version of the Zack Snyder verse, or you could be playing in an intentionally 4-color world where bad people are a little bit worse and good people are a little bit better. You could be playing the way people should be instead of the way people are, and that's okay too.
But
Yeah.
you know that 99.9% of superhero games devolve into Justice League International, right? You know that. That's just what happens.
If
Like,
not Mad Men, if not, is it not Mad Men?
Madman? No.
Yes,
Not
let's
Mad
role
Men.
play ad executives.
Yeah. No, not
Yeah.
Mad Men. There's a comic called Mad Man, which is
No.
Oh.
The movie with Ben Stiller and Janine Garofalo.
Mystery
and
Men.
Mystery
Mystery
Man.
Men. I
That's
shovel
Ben,
well.
Ben Edlund.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
Ben Edlund's influence. So that's the Tick in live action, right? That's what that
Right.
is. He was one of the writers on that film. But the point is that your players will determine the way the game goes. But I feel as a GM, your job is to help steer them and guide them along the way for the seriousness of the world.
Mhm.
Not what choices they make, but hey, you know what? You've never heard of a fucking jukebox. Your character doesn't know what a jukebox is. Quit saying you walk into the inn and go straight to the jukebox and throw a gold coin in it, because there's no fucking jukebox. You know what I mean? And just stop that shit.
Well,
But-
that's world breaking and tone breaking bullshit. Yeah, that you should whip. Have a horse whip just for that purpose.
cattle
I
prod.
probably, well, just back to the role playing thing, I would add that player, because you were talking about GM managing players, but I think, and some of you have also mentioned, like, how do you manage other players and not manipulate them into doing anything, but, guide them, like, oh, what do you think? Give them a moment to be like, oh, I think we should open the door, or we should run away or whatever. The best game I played, one of the best games I've ever played was at GaryCon, this last GaryCon. And I normally don't play with a caller, which is something that is in D&D that you're supposed to do. But my group just, I don't know, it was just an organic chaos when I was a kid, and I've always played organic chaos.
Mhm.
So I had a player just say, like, well, I've started to lean toward having somebody be the leader that you guys talk about what you want to do amongst yourselves, and I'll listen in, and then you tell me what your plan is. And I had somebody offer to be the leader and guide the party and manage the people, and he did a brilliant job in keeping it. It freed me up, like, to have a player that takes on that duty of the referee, where you're not having to do the personnel department part of it, and you can focus on running your adventure, and having a player do the personnel department part was really good, because it was that's kind of something, as a DM or as a player, if you have somebody that's like, okay, we know what the situation is, what do you think the best option is, and you discuss options. Because I played in the chaos mode, where you run into something and you get a Leroy Jenkins, right? Yeah. I press the button, and I think encouraging players to work, I'm interested in the team aspect, I guess, because I played, if I want to play conflict games, I can play chess, and it's just brain against brain, and I think the sort of collaborative aspect of role-playing games is something, in some ways, maybe has gone out of it a little bit. I don't know, but it's like, we're the good guys, we're going to go take care of the bad guys in certain situations. Like, that situation really appeals to me, or we're the bad guys, we're going to go take care of the good guys, whatever. But we're a team and we're working together. I think that helps bring unity to a group. Like the what you described as games where people are playing against each other. That's good for experienced players or people that have that buy-in, but creating unity is a little harder, I think. It's almost easier to just do chaos. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, chaos.
Agreed.
One of the problems I have with the chaotic thing in chaos can be fun, and I prefer chaos. This caller idea, I'm not a big fan of. But keeping it
I
on
never
the
was. Now I am.
No, now you are. Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
For me, the chaos thing comes down to the role playing, which is, and this is the only way I can describe it, in a group of, say, 6 players, you're going to have 5 Starbucks and 1 Apollo, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the older I get, there's less Starbucks, and that makes me really happy. The older the players I play with, I'm seeing a lot more Apollos than I'm seeing Starbucks these days. But when we were teenagers, man, it was just, how much chaos could we cause? I couldn't imagine us sitting around having to discuss it as a group and then having one person tell the DM what to do. Because I guarantee you, I know who we would have picked, and he would have, any bad idea we had, he would have vetoed and just said something else to the DM. You know what I mean? Like, that's a stupid fucking way of doing this instead. So, I don't know. I don't think it helps role playing, personally.
Yeah, I guess it helps keeping people focused on task.
Yeah, especially like if you got a large group or if you're playing in a hall with, there's a din. You want that caller because the caller can communicate with the group where you can't hear the other end of the table as a DM, right? So
Yeah.
it's practical in certain circumstances.
Well,
I had
didn't Gary
about-
barricade himself behind, like, he didn't even see his players and shit like that?
I don't know.
Is that apocryphal?
Arneson did that.
I don't know what to
I
talk
don't
about.
know.
I remember reading about it. The whole idea that he was a big fan of his DM screen and everything blocking him from seeing the players, and he would only answer questions from the caller.
Yeah. I was just going to say that the game I ran that was an excellent game had 10 or 11 players and 14 characters and a mule and a pet rat. So it was a huge party I was managing. So it was great having somebody manage the party.
Well, especially if you also have retainers too.
Yeah, yeah.
8 players each with a henchman and a pack animal and a dog. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's let
Yeah.
one of the players be the wrangler.
Yeah.
No, I've had a similar experience. I ran a OD&D game, white box game, at a convention 2 times running past couple years, and every time I usually do 2 sessions, and it's in between like 15 and 20 players show up, and I didn't turn anybody away. But I was like, okay, I didn't just have one caller. I had multiple callers. I was like, okay, you back there, you're a caller, you're a caller, you're a caller, because I can't have like 20 people talking to me at once.
And they can't do it
everybody's
amongst themselves. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But if you break it down, if you got a group that big, you can break it down into smaller groups. 5, 5, 5. Okay.
So you introduced the concept of middle management to your game? That's pretty good.
Yeah, and it worked really well.
Yeah, yeah.
So
How'd the
now,
promotions go?
now that's actually an interesting question. Thinking about the size of the group, does the size of the group impact the role playing?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like for good or for bad?
Yeah.
Then
Bad.
For worse.
It depends on the maturity and the discipline of the players, but generally for the worse.
Len, care to
Just
disagree and do
simple
an
time.
entire essay on it?
Sorry?
Nothing. I'm just taking a shot at you, bro. I miss you. Go ahead.
Yeah, just from the simple time perspective. I mean, you just have less spotlight time for each individual. Whether you're playing more of a Griffith game where you're trying to solve the puzzle and sort of work your way through the whatever you're trying to work your way through, or whether you're playing a big drama game where you're all forsoothing your way through the tavern, the fact of the matter is, simple time.
You know what drives me nuts in any size of group, but even when you see it a lot more in a bigger group. I find that after 4 players, I start to see this develop. Not always, but sometimes. That there's this one guy whose character is going to be everywhere, doing everything and involved with everything, and wants to make every roll. And it's like, at some point you got to go, brother, let the fucking ranger make the tracking roll. He's the fucking ranger. Like, just let him do his fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I hate when I have to actually police a player like that, but there are certain players who need to be in every
Reined in.
scene.
They have to
and
be in the
every
center of
role.
attention.
Yeah.
They don't
And
get
they're called
invited
men.
back. They just don't get invited back if you're not fun in the group.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I tend to play in my real world with like actual friends as opposed to just random players.
Get
I
rid of
picked
those
up.
friends. They suck.
No.
It depends
No.
on how well they take the dressing down.
Well,
Like
it also depends how you present it too.
yeah, I've got a friend. He's like that. He's always the one. Oh wait, I forgot. I want to do this and this. And no. You have made your declaration. You have made your choice. It is now somebody else's turn. But nope, no buts. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll wait. And then that it ends there. But if you get the player who's just going to keep hammering and complaining, whining, yeah, out the door. You're done.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a certain level of that. I mean, you almost want to turn into Lee Ermey in, Full Metal Jacket. What is wrong with you? Did your mommy and daddy not love you enough? And, like, just stop. But there's again, look, being a GM is a lot of work because it's like being a teacher. And I used to say this to my classes. You need to put your hands up. These are adults I'm dealing with. And they're like, I'm like, because I am one person. You are one person dealing with me. I am one person dealing with 25 of you. So put your fucking hands up. You know what I mean? And it was surprising that you could do that. Same thing with gamers. There are 6 of you. Can you wait your fucking turn or put your fucking hand up, please? Let's not all talk at one time.
Just game with people who run games. Game with other GMs.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
all understand.
We're the worst. We're the worst players.
Oh, no.
Oh, I totally disagree.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I
The
disagree.
DMs can be the best players. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always suggest.
Maybe
to
it's
DM
just you who's the worst bear. But every
It is.
other GM is a
It-
great player.
I have officially stopped being a player because of that very thing.
No,
what were you gonna say, Sean?
I was about to say I always recommend people who are forever DMs find a game, even if it's a one shot, just sit in, just get the player experience and to remind you of that perspective. I got a friend who he loves AD&D, but he's one of those tyrannical adversarial DMs, and he's out to get you. And it's like you don't know what it's like being a player trying to build a character and trying to play and want to be fair. You need to play more, and he fights me on that every once in a while. Though he'll sit in a game and he's like, "Yeah, I need to play more."
I don't mind a one-off. That's not an issue. But when you get someone who's running a campaign and you're sitting there, after a while, it's like, oh Jesus Christ, I can't do this. Like I just can't do this. It's not that I'm saying DMs make bad players, but all right, let me use a parallel. Everybody in their young adult years should either work in a restaurant or a bar for one summer. Why? Because moving forward, they will always treat wait staff and bar staff with much more respect because they've been there, they've done it, and they know what a shit show it is. Conversely, everyone who works in telephone customer service is the worst fucking person to call customer service because they have spent so much of their job being dressed down for their mistakes and the errors they made and being judged that when they're now the person on the other end of the call and they hear the person making the mistakes, they tend to be very difficult to deal with. Not everybody, but it is a trend we've noticed in the customer service world. I don't know if a forever DM makes a good player. I don't know. I know I don't. I know I'm a very bad player. And as a result, I've stopped playing because I don't think I should be inflicting that on other people. It should be like, you know what? Let them have their game and let them have fucking fun. I enjoy running games. I don't enjoy playing games, but that's me. You guys are different. You might want to be players and you might want to be GMs and you might walk that line, and that's great. But I don't think it's a wrong or right. I think it's a personal choice.
So, real quick, I'll chime in and absolutely agree that yes, as somebody who takes inbound customer service calls, I am literally the worst if I have to call someone and it starts going sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, speaking of, I actually mentioned in the backstage before we started that I was going to tell a story about last night. This is just going to take 2 seconds. But I had a customer that cursed me and everyone I've ever met. So just so you're all aware, it's all downhill for you from here on.
We're all now cursed, huh?
Yes.
I'll add it to the pile.
Yeah.
What are we cursed for? What do we do?
Let's just say he was very full of himself.
Was it
Wait,
me?
that was me.
No,
Yeah, was it me?
no. If I got one of you all on the phone, so many other things went sideways. But I do also think that that I think Mage brings up a good point. Sean. I keep calling him Mage because he comes into my chat and I always forget, and so I just call him Mage.
Everybody calls me Mage. It's all good.
But I think he does bring up a good point that even if you don't necessarily have to play in a campaign, but occasionally getting out and being on the other side can be helpful, especially for helping players, be better players themselves, because you at least understand the difficulties that they have. So
Yeah, difficulties like not knowing what their character sheet
Well, I
does,
think-
not knowing their spells. Yeah,
I think that we talked a little bit. I think it was maybe Cody that was talking earlier about player engagement. You have to, or somebody was saying you got to, you show up, you've got to engage. The engagement is also, you have to be patient. I mean, there are times in these games where you get to do nothing, and And you can't just sit there and let your mind wander and then come back and like, yeah, what was going on? You've got to pay attention. You've got to stay. You're at the table. This is your 4 hours of game time or 5 hours of game time. You got to make an effort. And then that also goes for the immersion part of it. I mean, it's like if you're only playing what's on your character sheet and using the rules, I mean, that's some people enjoy doing that. But I would say that it's worth also using a little bit of the immersion and sort of like thinking about what the dungeon master is presenting to you as a real experience and dealing with it in that way. I don't know. Just, I mean, that's the whole goal is the whole point of the role-playing game engine is to create immersion. And
I absolutely
and a lot
agree
of
with
people
you.
avoid it, you know.
I agree with you on what you just said. The think about what the DM is presenting. Not every player, especially new players, are capable of that. So part of that is the learning process. It's like learning to look off the sheet and engage in the situation. So that's just a matter of a good DM helping you along there. But yeah, that's definitely the goal, is to be able to forget the character sheet and play the situation.
I mean, I think that's why Carnage is really important in a game. If you don't have any stakes in the game, then you don't have any reason to try to improve your ability to play the game. And I mean, a lot of people are very happy playing the same thing over and over. It's like a little kid watching the same VHS tape. Yeah, same Scooby-Doo episode over and over.
Exactly.
But you'd like to maybe improve your game, and as a DM, I like seeing my players be more and more challenging. Like I up my game, I up what I present them with in a group, and as they up what they present me with, and so we raise the stakes of just the experience together too. So there is that aspect of being really collaborative with your DM as far as presenting them with weird ideas too.
Well, I mean, look, the best games are the ones where the players do crazy shit that you have to react to as the DM and then make something happen. But I'm going to have, this is a hot take, and I know it's a hot take when I say it, and a lot of people aren't going to agree with me, and I'm already prepared to hear Len's counter argument. And I'm
Bear, you ignorant slut.
Bear, you're wrong.
Thank you. Bear, okay, great. So I don't have to tell you my opinion because I'm already wrong. I think, and this is something I observed and something that I firmly believe, third edition broke the player GM relationship, because one of the things that I always say to my players, and it's just a point I drive home for them, is like, guys, know your shit when you come to the table and don't bitch at me, because you have to show up and play a character once every 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks in between, I'm building the adventure, I'm statting out NPCs, I'm preparing everything, I'm corralling you guys all like fucking cats to get everything together to make sure that it all pulls off. So maybe I have a little bit of importance in this as well, and maybe I should have a little bit of authority at my table. Not controversial, not controversial, not combative, not adversarial, but just the DM exists as the control point for the game. And I think third edition was where that break really happened, because they started making it all about the players, and it was all about your build, and it was all about this, and it was all about that. And I just watched that spread throughout gaming after that point, and it just, to this day, I think 5th edition is the absolute epitome of that ideology, that it's all about the precious little player, and it's all about their fun, and it's all about their agency, and it's all about what they get. And I find
I agree with you. It's because that sells product, because you have more players than you have GMs.
Sure.
And so you want to addict your players to the process of making characters and make them feel like their character is special, which is hard to do when you play with me, because I just kill you guys in first or second session. But anyway, you're not special. But
you're not special.
No, I agree. Yeah.
You will die and you will like it.
Yeah.
You will come
Please, sir, may I have another?
Well, but
the punchline is you're right. You're right.
What? Sorry, what?
You will die and you will like it. You're right. Okay. Once you do it, you're like
agreeing with me.
Oh, damn. No, I begrudgingly have to agree with you. I don't know if your timing is exactly on point, but yeah. I do think even by second edition, they were seeing about giving the players lots of options and lots of splats and lots of things to do, because they were looking for more revenue sources.
Well, and that's what I was about to say, Len, is that even though I didn't play in that era, I don't think it started with third edition, because you had the complete paladin, the complete fighter, the complete dwarf, the complete elf, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all pushing product towards the players. So
Point of parliamentary procedure. I wasn't talking about that aspect of it. I was talking about the game itself codifying itself more about player agency. And that we really saw take off in third edition. There may have been hints of it in late second edition, but it was third edition where it started becoming about the player. It's all about the player. Now,
We should-
sales stuff, go ahead.
We should talk more about that, because I get into a lot of trouble. I mean, we play I always say, play what you like, have fun doing what you want, play how you want. I'm not going to play in your game, maybe, because it's not my kind of game. But I think that it's come full circle to just complete player narcissism. Like a player is allowed to create a character and come into my world and expect me to change my world because their character has a rich uncle that they've lost contact with or something like that.
Yeah.
It's going to give them, like all the goodies or something. I don't know. I mean,
Hate
you know what I'm
that
saying?
player entitlement. I was at in Toronto, where there's a group, Toronto D&D group, and there was this guy lecturing the DMs there about how he wouldn't play unless the DM catered the game to his character and his desires. And I'm like, good riddance, you're out the door.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
That's
because
somebody who
they've
has
had-
a complex and tragic true life story.
Yes, but at
That's
the
not, I
same
mean,
time,
that's.
Len, they've
come
also
on.
had helicopter DMs in their experience as well. That's the problem. They've had.
Oh yeah,
DMs
they've created the
that-
helicopter DM.
Exactly. And those DMs are like, I can't kill the characters. I see this all the time on these Reddit tales, these Reddit RPG stories. I felt really bad because I had to kill the character and fuck the character. You're not killing the player. You're killing an imaginary fucking Blackleaf is dead. Blackleaf, I declare you fucking dead.
Wait, you're only supposed to kill the character, not the player too?
No.
We've
I
talked
have-
about this.
I have a
Sean,
classic
inner voice,
story
outer
about
voice.
this.
Go
I have
for
a
it.
classic story. I'll make it really quick. I wanted a little bit more because we were just doing dungeon dives. So I got together with my DM and I said, hey, I want to make a character and I want to have a little bit of political intrigue and kind of be more like a spy. And my DM was like, oh, yay, I want to do that too. So I created this character and we had a patron that came and contacted me. I gathered all the players and we were going to go on this mission down into the dungeons under the city, kind of EPT style. And we got to this bridge and there's this battle on the bridge. And wouldn't you know it, my character, which I had developed in this really deep story character, gets shot by an arrow, misses his saving throw, and pitches off the edge of the bridge into the abyss. And it happens. You just make another one, right? But I literally stood up and left the table, an hour into the game session. I think I lived 3 miles from there, and I think I might have walked home after that. I was just like,
Aw, I wouldn't handle it that way.
General Nuts comment. I don't know if you want to pump that up, Brian. DMs don't kill characters, players and dice kill characters. Bullshit.
well, they
That's-
killed themselves.
I have fucking hunted characters. I have gone straight after a character I hated and did everything in my power to kill him. And then he survived that prick. I was like, Jesus
Bad
Christ.
bear. Bad bear.
No, I didn't break the rules. I didn't fudge my dice. But I went out of my way to kill him. And that son of a bitch rolled hot, played smart, and survived and became the greatest character in the fucking campaign.
Well, I would say General Nut's pretty on point for how I run games. I'm not going to try to kill you. You're going to kill yourself. And I got a real short story about that. And it also involves table flipping. So we had this guy that was
Hold on.
We had
Actual table flipping?
actual table flipping.
Nice.
So we had this guy that played with us. He was kind of an ass anyways. Every once in a while he'd be cool though. So I kept him in and I took him to the side a couple times. I'm like, hey man, tone it down, whatever. So he was being cool for a while and playing cool. And so I was like, hey, we're going to start a new campaign. I'm going to do a Conan game. We started this Conan game, ran a few sessions. He's playing a thief. And one of the adventures was literally Tower of the Elephant. Okay, so that was the adventure seat. Of course, none of them had ever read Conan, anything. They didn't know anything about Conan except the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So they didn't know all these from the books and comics. So I could steal things from there. So he gets wind of this adventure seed, and he decides he's going to go off and do it by himself. Go to the tower, steal the jewel, do the whole thing by himself. He doesn't tell the party. He goes off and does it. I'm like, I actually like broke the wall there. I was like, hey, dude, you know, I designed this for the whole party. And if you go off and do this, I'm not going to level it out for you. He's like, okay, yeah, I understand that. I'm like, okay. So we go back to the table. To his credit, he did a really fucking good job. He got all the way to the top of the tower, does all the stuff. You know, he sneaks past the guards. He's got all these, you know, I don't remember the whole deal, but I do remember he gets to the top of the tower and the final enemy is this poison spider. It drops from the ceiling, gets the prize on him, bites him. It's old school D&D. He fails a save.
Yeah.
He dies. You're dead. And he flipped the fuck out. He literally flipped the table over, stormed out the door, said, fuck this, slammed the door. But the best part of that is we're all, you know, kind of in shock because we're like, what the fuck just happened? I'm like, what the hell? So I'm like, we get the table back and like whatever. I'm like, fuck him. We're going to keep playing. He's never invited back. And literally like 10 minutes later, we hear a knock on the door. He opens the door and comes back and just sits down at the table like nothing happened. And just like starts rolling up a new character like nothing happened. We're all just go quiet. I'm like, really? I'm like, really? I'm like, no, look, dude, I've given you warnings before. I'm sorry, but you're not invited back. You can just leave. I'm like, you know, and sometimes you have to put your foot down, basically, is the point of that story.
Never had anybody flip a table. That's epic.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I haven't played with anybody ballsy enough to pull shit like that in my presence. I'm sorry, you know, too many years as a bouncer. Like I just make a face and they just kind of go, "Oh, I'm going to behave right now," and it's nothing. But to flip a table, Jesus, that person would not only be out of the game, they'd be out of my life.
Yeah. Well, he didn't come back. He was invited.
Yes. Oh, full stop. You know.
I kind of need to get rolling, guys.
Okay.
Oh,
It wasn't a plan. I got contacted like maybe 3 hours before the show. Like, hey, you want to be on the show? Oh, okay.
Technically, you were contacted about 10 a.m. You just didn't respond for a few hours, but that's fine, Griff. No, it's totally fine. First off, Griff, I am very happy you were able to join us. You've been, I really like you, Griff. I really do.
Are we gonna hug now?
I would absolutely hug you if you were here.
Now kiss.
His charisma reaction was high.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before you go, please shill everything that you want to.
Oh, shill everything I want. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I don't have the paperback handy because I don't have the new one. We kind of have different ones. We just did a Kickstarter for this thing, and we have it on our website, TFOTT, which is short for the Fellowship of the Thing.com. But you can get a paperback version of The Lost Dungeons at Tonisborg, which is Greg Svensson, one of Arneson's players, designed his own dungeon in 1973, and then he loaned it to David McGarry, who created the Dungeon board game. And there was an accident, and the maps got lost. And then years later, when we were making the movie, we were at McGarry's house doing an interview, and McGarry brought out these maps, these crazy looking maps here. Let me see, here's one. These crazy looking maps. And those are Xeroxes of the original dungeon. So one of the oldest dungeons in the history of the game. It predates the publication of the game. But we published it in this book with some rules that are like OD&D, like pre-OD&D, OD&D. From a lot of it comes from old drafts and stuff, and a lot of talk about how to be a DM, how to run a game, basically how to run a game in the old way, how we would have played like in the early 1970s, mid 1970s. And then we have that, and then we have I don't know, go to the website tfot.com. There's all kinds of stuff to dig around in. You can actually get a PDF of the rules for free, the player rules for free, so you can see how characters are created in that game. And there's a link up there. What else can I shill? Oh yeah, we got this documentary, Secrets of Blackmoor, The True History of Dungeons and Dragons. We have that, and then that should cover it.
Okay.
And then we have a lot of cool stuff in the works. We might be doing a convention up in the Twin Cities in October, and invite all the Blackmoor Bunch players that are still around to come and run war games and stuff like that.
Okay. And this is before you go, I'm bringing this up because it's specifically for you, Griff. Is there a Blackmoor Part 2 coming perhaps on the Gygax era.
Well, there's so much research on the Gygax stuff now that, like that reason we worked on, kind of focused on Arneson and then discovered all the pre-Arneson stuff, is because everybody already knew the Gygax stuff pretty much, and Arneson kind of he just didn't get the respect he deserved. I mean, he's the guy that he invented the dungeon, he invented the play style for D&D, you know, and then got written off and kicked out of the company and stuff. So it was much more interesting to do that. So we're gonna maybe do a follow-up if we can get the funding to do it, because we really didn't make the money back that we invested to make the original movie. And we're still kind of broke, but the books are kind of offsetting that. But if we did another movie, it would really be more like the period between about 1970 and 1974, and really focus in detail on everything that people can remember about what Arneson was doing as far as rules and stuff like that. Little things. I mean, I think we have some interviews like Ross Maker talks about how they would, if you got killed, you'd play the monsters for the DM. Little things like that, you know. Like Arneson was very, he was a genius when it came to keeping everybody in the game, you know. And what else? Yeah. So who knows? But it would take doing a Kickstarter with a really high point, you know, for it to like tip over into us making a movie, because it's just too making movies is expensive and it takes time.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube videos are one thing, but when you need like you know,
film is expensive. Working
shooters, audio colorists, audio engineers, audio recordists, audio engineers, all of that stuff, it piles up. So, but thanks for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. I think we're probably going to have at least one more special issue of the Four Color Cafe. You are, probably next week.
What day next week? It would be on a Wednesday. Yeah, I won't be around. I'm going to be going to VengerCon, so I'll be kind of like in the Midwest next week. I don't know if any of you guys are up near Madison at all, but Venger, he's just a fun guy, and I'm going to go run some Thomas board, but my excitement is always running war games for role players.
Hell yeah.
You know, because I think role players need to play war games just to kind of know what it's about. So I have Fletcher Pratt's naval war game from about 1937 and a bunch of big lead ships. And we're going to it's sort of like Starfleet battles on the floor with lead ships. It's really fun.
Well, Griff, when we're not doing the special editions anymore and my hiatus is over, I'll talk to Brian, but you're more than welcome to be on the regular show as well.
Oh, thanks. Nice meeting everybody. Nice nice disagreeing with some of you.
Gamers,
that never happens.
What?
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks so much, Griff. Have a great day.
Take it easy.
Yep.
Cheers.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Bear, come sit by me.
No, I will not come sit by you.
I do want to.
Cody will take your spot.
Yeah, I do want to say anybody that's not seen Secrets of Blackmoor, go watch it. It's probably my favorite RPG documentary I've seen yet.
Yeah, I put it on the list.
It's really good.
It is okay. So keep in mind, I always talk about how little experience I have in this area. I never played original D&D, basic expert, none of that. Literally never played until like 3rd edition.
We could change that.
I get that. That's not the point of my story, Cody.
What happened to the host to get so you get a little aggressive?
But Secrets of Blackmoor was so much fun and so interesting that like Griff was literally one of my first interviews on my channel. He is such a sweet, nice guy. And follow him on Twitter. He will straight up just troll everybody with old school style, and it's just fun to watch. So, anyways, I really like him. But
anybody else get a Clancy Brown thing from him, or is that just me?
No,
probably just you.
Kind of looked like a little bit like Clancy Brown to me.
Yeah, he looked like David.
That took me a minute to kick into who Clancy Brown was, but a little bit, but.
Yeah,
Griff's too skinny to be Clancy Brown.
Fair, yeah. Don't get me wrong. But
my legit thought when I saw it was, who's the David Suzuki looking guy? Like, and that's a Canadian thing. So
Oh, yeah.
I got nothing.
Nice guy.
yeah, very nice. Yeah.
And he didn't flip the table, so we will definitely invite him back.
All right. So, all right. I have one. This is from way back. Retro DM Ray asks, do you think skills heavy versus skills light or none at all factor in role playing?
Yes. The fact, and I don't know if it's necessarily specific to skills, but in a larger sense, rules heavy versus rules light do factor into role playing at the very least until you're really, really comfortable with the nuances of the system. Because at the end of the day, the more mechanical elements, game mechanics, game interface elements that you are juggling, the less. It was Griff was talking about actually about when you're playing the game and about immersing yourself in the situation and acting, interacting, role playing from a perspective of putting yourself in your character's shoes, in their situation, looking around and seeing what you would do in that moment. And I think that's more difficult to do when you've got buttons and levers on your character sheet that you're trying to figure out which to push, or when just the game itself has a number of mechanical elements that you're expected to be aware of and interface with.
Yeah, Lynn summed it up.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Look, I'm not.
Disagree. Hey, the guy who hates alignment leaves, and all of a sudden we're all in agreement.
Almost like he was chaotic.
Yeah.
Agents of Chaos. What?
Look, I'm not used to being on this side having to moderate a whole panel. So,
And doing a fine job, if I may say so.
Yeah,
a fine
You're doing a
job.
great job. Gibble gobble, one of us. Yeah.
all right. So, all right, then I guess like any other suggestions? What else can we do to encourage players to try and role play a little bit more? Anything we haven't touched on?
Cody said something. I'm so sorry, Rich, real quick. Cody said something that I want to. Cody mentioned modeling, and I actually think that might be by far the most effective tool to get people more
Define
into their character's shoes, to sort of role play to that person. If you're the GM or if you're a fellow player, turn to your player and be like, Talon, what should we do? Or you both give them an opportunity to play within the confines of puzzle solve or whatever, but you also give them an opportunity, a moment that they might speak about themselves in the third person, or they might just respond to you in their character's voice. Create openings and opportunities.
I don't know. I tried modeling, and me walking down the runway didn't do anything to get my players role playing. It was awkward,
and the shaving of the legs really sucked.
Oh god,
no one appreciated it. No.
But so, Cody, could you expand upon that a little bit? Because you had mentioned that.
It's well, I mean, you can do it as a player. I was talking about as a player perspective, but you can do it as a DM too. If you see a player that's new to the concept, or they're just not as engaged, you push them into a situation where they are engaged. So for example, if they're playing a thief, I mean, this is a really simple example. They're playing a thief. They don't know what to do. You could be as the other player. Hey, whatever your name is, you should check for traps or whatever. Oh, I should. Yeah, you should. Or, you're talking to the king. Well, you should talk to the king. Why don't you talk to the king? Oh, I should. Yeah. Why don't you do that? Instead of this one person, doing the talking all the time, why don't you do the talking for once? Or why don't you do this or that? And you can present that as a DM or a player. It's a little difficult to describe unless, you're in an actual play situation, but I think everybody gets the point, and also I want to say that's another good reason I think, it's good for a GM to be a player occasionally because you can encourage players to be better players.
What are we talking about? All ones, grammar and punctuation,
and proper spacing.
proper caps use.
Why are you yelling?
Why do you hate us?
Oh, well, and I think that's definitely something to how do I want to put it? That I think Cody brings up a good point, but can't that also end up breaking the immersion a little bit?
No.
No, you can totally work it into the immersion. You're playing in character, and you in character describe to the other character, hey, I'm not doing this well, but if I was actually role playing,
check the traps.
Yeah, right. Again, it's kind of hard to do when we're not actually playing a session. But no, you even as a DM, you don't have to break the immersion to do this. The king speaks to you, or you're put in this situation. You have to react to it, right? Whatever, it's so no. If you do it well, you don't break immersion. Now you can break immersion, and even then, I don't think it's breaking immersion. You can just say out of character, hey, why don't you take the lead on this one?
Can I also interject that the idea of breaking immersion is a little bit of a red herring in that this isn't Stanislavski. We're not.
Right, I agree with you.
What I mean?
No, I agree with
It's clearly Uta Hagen.
Yeah.
Well, she's just as bad. And I'm just saying, but that's neither here nor there. My point is that we're gaming, we're having fun. There's going to be lots of broken immersion, but what you don't want a player to be doing, and this isn't sort of directly with what you're saying, but you don't want to be like having that intense. Okay, I'll give you a story. Here's a story. I was running my Albana campaign way back when I started Albana. So if you guys have seen the videos, you know what Albana is, and Albana now exists in the West. Okay. They got to essentially the castle of the Horned King, for lack of a better term. And my buddy Renzo was playing the wizard that was leading them. He was sort of the Gandalf of the group. And we're having this intense scene where they're he's role playing with the evil guy, and the evil guy is explaining, I'm not going to destroy you now because it's not ready yet, and there's stuff you need to do and stuff I need to do before we're gonna get it. And then I don't remember what Renzo said in character. It was so colossally, I don't want to use the word idiotic, but just like himbo. It was so dumb what came out of his mouth that literally I was so into the character of the horn evil guy that he's going against. I'm saying the Horn King. It wasn't the Horn King, but just for the Black Cauldron Prydain reference. He went, wait, what? He stopped, and I couldn't help it because the character did that in my head. That's how immersed I was in the character. And then that just degenerated into, you're my opposition? You're the person that's going to be challenging all of this? Well, I've won, and it just degenerated from being a serious campaign into a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode for the rest of the adventure, right? And you know what? We had so much fun despite breaking that moment and breaking the tension of the campaign and all the seriousness of the campaign. Just in that one moment of insanity, the immersion took us someplace even more fun for that day. Next game, we were all back to serious and all that, but we just had that one bizarre episode of it was fun. So immersion can be helpful, but it's not required.
But I think,
and I got to say, go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, I mean, it's important to separate immersion with engagement, right?
Yeah.
You're engaged in the game. You want to be fully engaged in the game. Immersion is the cherry on that sundae, but yes, not everybody's going to be able to do that. As you say, we're not doing a stage play. This isn't method acting. We want to get to that point where we can all be sitting quietly at a tense moment and all in character, and those moments are great, but realistically, they're not going to happen a lot. But once you lose the engagement, the game is over.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
And I'll say immersion. I'm happy to sacrifice immersion on the altar of helping another player become more engaged.
Yeah,
I'll walk up that ziggurat 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Engagement's a huge thing. So I had a group that recently pretty much broke up. And one of the reasons it broke up is because one of the players
was dating Yoko Ono.
Yes. It was fucking Yoko. Always. No. he just stopped being engaged. He started making these silly characters and trying to break the game. And, and I let him do that once. And then, I had to take him to the side. I'm like, dude, look, we're trying to play a game here and you're ruining the fun for everybody. So either if you're going to show up, play the game, you don't have to be serious. I mean, I don't run super serious games most of the time, but you still, you're not cooperating with everybody and you're not being engaged.
That's someone who doesn't want to play.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's what I told him. I'm like, you show up, you say you want to play and you really don't want to play. In the meantime, there's another one that's on their cell phone the whole time. And I had to take them to the side. I'm like, look, do you want to be here or do you not want to be here? Because you don't play at all. You don't know you don't know what's going on. Whenever I say, hey, what are you doing? You're like, what? And look up from your phone.
That's someone who wants to hang out with their friends.
Fucking show up.
Yeah, exactly. That's someone wants to hang out.
Exactly.
When I used to run my Marvel, my favorite Marvel campaign back in the 90s, I had one rule that was sacrosanct. And it was this: if you say it, your character said it. And and everyone agreed to that rule. And invariably, at some point in the session, someone would say something really stupid or really snarky.
Oh, I didn't say that. Yeah.
In front of Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, and then everybody else at the table was like, no. And it added to the whole thing. And it was fun. You know what I mean? Like, no one got punished for it. It was just, well, your character just said this guy's an asshole to this guy. So let's see how this works out. It's a bold play, Cotton.
Let's see how it's come.
But it's fun.
There are people who show up because they want to hang with their friends. They want to chill out. They're not into playing the game. And there's people who have very short attention spans. They're excited about the game for a session or two. But look, if everybody's loses interest in the game after a couple of sessions, you took a misstep as the GM. Your game, you love your game too much, but maybe you should be writing a novel, or maybe the idea was great, but it's just not gelling with it. Whatever it is, something's just not gelling. But if everyone else is gelling and one person isn't, there are some people whose just attention span is kind of like a sine wave, and when it fades, and they still just want to hang out with their friends. You know what? If everybody knows that and everybody gets that, and everyone's like, yeah, that's Bob. He's just here to chill, that's fine if everybody's cool with it and everybody knows it, so that's just part of that whole social contract thing underlying this weird hobby.
So Robin made a comment. There was a player we used to play with, a guy named John, and he always took notes. He was a meticulous note taker. In fact, in the West, the entire concept of the Kalenites is based off of making a character idea for him to be able to play and take notes all the time. So he always had a notebook. And he had one page where he had written in black, heavy pencil that just said, "Shut up." And whenever someone would say something really like, you're giving the GM bad ideas that are going to fuck us in the ass, John would just hold that up. Just, shut the fuck up, But that's the thing. Those are the kinds of things you only get when you're all comfortable playing together and you've been playing together and building these little interactions, these little social dynamics and contracts and what have you. And that's kind of fun, man. That's like kind of the point of it all. Yeah, everyone wants to write their novel. Great. But, at the same time, we're playing a fucking game. It's a game. Let's have fun, too.
Yeah, and actually, I think this is little deviation from there, but Full Metal Dragon says the worst kind of disengagement is playing a game of mutants and masterminds for a few sessions, and the one player still asks what die to roll when making attack rolls.
But there's only one fucking die.
Yeah.
There's 10 mutants and masterminds. There's one fucking die.
Well, but
that guy's an asshole.
Well, the reason that I wanted to bring that up is whether there's one die in the game or whatever. Like the game of Shadowrun that I played a couple of weeks ago now. Like, I'll admit, I unfortunately I wasn't as well versed in the game, so it wasn't that I just wasn't paying attention. But there were a couple of times where I just had to say, tell me what I'm rolling.
It's Shadowrun. That's perfectly okay.
Shadowrun. The only other game that I've seen worse than that is Earth Dawn. Remember first edition Earth Dawn? Based on what your stat was, that's the dice pool you have to roll. Jesus Christ,
I got a guy in my OSE game, the ones that I recap. He's the one who plays Bumble Stump. For any of those who follow my stories, he's one of those. He's an actor. He's an immersive player, but the mechanics of the game, even after all this time, are just over his head. He just can't grasp it. We have to tell him what dice to roll, but it's okay because when he's at the table, he's playing the role, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he lacks the mechanical aptitude, but he's a hell of a lot of fun to have at the table because he makes choices, he plays the role, he sticks with the character. So there's a give and take.
I've had players like that. They're just like, look, just tell me what to roll. Like, I'm going to play my character and have fun, but when it comes time to do something, just tell me what to roll. I roll a d20 and add 5. Okay, great. And they're happy that way.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think there is a difference between the knowing the mechanics and being engaged in the game. I think you can have that player that is fully engaged in the game, but they just don't learn the rules, and that will be frustrating. But they're still there, they're still participating, they're still contributing to everything going on. Just somebody has to be like, no, roll that one. No, not that one. Roll the other one.
Right. And remember, our hobby I think our hobby probably, it wouldn't surprise me if we have a slightly higher percentage of whatever slightly neurodivergence, such that some people just may not work with one thing versus the other, or numbers versus, if some people are better with the numbers and some people are better with the play acting, which I'm still going to call role playing. I understand the conversation, but I'm still going to call that role playing.
Bye, Bruce Lombardo.
Bye, Bruce.
Well, Bruce, see you later, Bruce. Bruce is in charge of the sheep dip. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
May my shits be crits. What? Oh no, got to put on my glasses.
I was really sad that I missed you guys talking about Critical Role because I caught all that. I was like, it's over. Well, because I have feelings, Oh,
I get feelings too.
And I don't.
I had it.
Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say I had this player a couple years ago in the group. He was a brand new guy. Actually, my neighbor. He's a good dude. Never played D&D. Always wanted to play D&D. And he got interested in it because of Critical Role. So I was, he heard I play D&D, and he was like, "Oh, cool." I was like, "Yeah, man, come play." So he comes, plays, and after a couple sessions, he's kind of getting into it, whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, man, this isn't really what I expected. You really should be more like Critical Role. You ever seen Critical Role?" And
so they'll never found his body, huh?
Yeah. So I was like, "Well, dude, I'm just here to tell you, I'm not Matt Mercer. I'm not going to be Matt Mercer. I'm Cody, and this is the way I GM." I'm like, if you don't like it, maybe you can find somebody like Matt Mercer, but I'm not Matt Mercer. I'm not trying to be Matt Mercer. I'm not going to be like him.
And we play real games, not the ones they play on Critical Role.
Yeah, exactly.
You should totally have told him, did you ever see the Jeffersons? You should be more like Bentley.
Yeah.
It should be like the guy in the Home Improvement where only I see you over the fence as your eyes. But, I just think, like, one, the Matt Mercer effect, I don't give a fuck. Two, I like two of the players on that show as a general rule, right? And the rest of them are whatever for me. And boy, Critters hated me when I didn't like the fucking anyway. But I got my old channel got fucking like I got ratioed into oblivion because I said something negative about Critical Role, and Jesus Christ, I got the blip. But I don't give a fuck anymore because then I was trying to build a channel. Now I don't give a fuck, so I'll say what I want. Matt Mercer's not that great a DM. I've played with better DMs.
He's an actor.
He's a voice actor. I'm a fucking voice actor. So what? Doesn't make us better at D&D. He's not a bad DM. It's not like it's like, oh Jesus Christ, what'd you do? But this celebrity idea for D&D is such antithesis to what D&D is. And bear with me here, guys. Most of us are old enough that when we started playing D&D, it wasn't the cool kids. It wasn't cool. It was those nerdy kids and those geeky kids and those fringe kids, right? Having fun playing a game. It only became a little cooler when you got to college, but for the most part, it was never really a cool fucking thing, right? Get in, loser. We're playing D&D, like whatever. This celebrity obsession with D&D and with role-playing games. Vin Diesel wrote the introduction to I don't give a fuck. Fuck Vin Diesel. I don't give a shit what Vin Diesel did. Oh, Joe Manganiello is like, he's huge. Good for Joe Manganiello. I don't give a shit what Joe Manganiello does. That's his world. I don't subscribe to celebrity culture. Now, that clearly is because I've worked in the film industry, and that shit wears off really fast for you when you see people not being in front of a public spectrum camera, but being their own selves behind the scenes. But even before that, bless you. My goodness.
Peanut gallery?
That was Peanut Gallery.
I'm sorry. You calling me bullshit on that one? But for me, this whole idea, this celebrity obsession with D&D and like this creating celebrities, or because this person plays D&D, it must be awesome because they're awesome. Fuck, I could care less. I couldn't give two shits. I mean, Ginny D's nice, but I don't give a fuck. I mean, Ginny D said stuff that I've gone, no, she's a big YouTuber. Good for her. What happens at your table, what happens with your group, and what happens with what you do is between you and your players. It's your dynamic. It's your group. It's your fun. You shouldn't be trying to be someone else. Well, yeah. Role-playing someone else.
We had the topic.
Somebody missed the point.
Did you miss the first hour of the?
Yes, I did. But you shouldn't be trying to emulate someone just because they're a celebrity or they're popular. And that's a life lesson overall. But, like, for fuck's sake. Sean, I'm going to ask you directly. I want you to run a one session for Brian, Cody, Len, and even I'll be a player in your style. Okay?
Okay.
Then, Cody, I want you to run one session of a game, a one-off, in your style for the rest of us. And then Len, and then maybe Brian, and most of you are already playing in a game I'm running anyway or something, so that's not even needed. But the point is that we will get to see the different styles of GMs in a live environment and play in a different style of a game and see the diversity and the wonder of what this hobby brings to the table for us. The idea that every game is going to be different and you don't need to be fucking looking at Matt Mercer or someone else as some sort of guru. They're not. They're just nerds like the rest of us, geeks.
No, but I do understand the concept of I understand the concept of people who don't know anything about this hobby. That's all they know. That's all they know. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're going to bring someone in and you ask them, what do you know? And what they tell you is about Critical Role, you sit them down and have the after school special conversation with them.
I declare you dead, Blackleaf.
This is not an I learned it from you situation. No, but you do have the gentle conversation with them of like that's a show, and this is if you're watching NCIS, that's not going to be your life if you go into the Navy. So like we get that, right? And if you're watching LA Law, if that's why you went to law school, we need to have a conversation. And really, this is just TV entertainment.
Yeah.
So, and you just let people know from the outset, that's not what it's like. There's about 11,000 actual plays that you can watch of people who aren't trained voice actors playing off scripts mostly. Maybe watch one or two of those, and just so you get a different sense of what you're looking.
Oh, absolutely, you can learn from it for sure. But to try and mimic it is,
probably silly.
Or expect it to be mimicked for you at any game you go to is just silly.
Well, actually, I think your point about expecting things to be mimicked, I think that applies to both players and GMs. Like everybody should find their own style, and that's one reason that I wanted to talk about the topic is just because finding ways to come up with these characters and not just, this is Bob the Druid, this is Bob the Thief, this is Bob the whatever.
Hello, I'm Bob.
Yeah, just putting a different costume onto the same person every single time, but finding ways to dive a little bit deeper into those characters and trying new things. So,
Yeah, I agree.
anyhow,
I agree with that.
on that note, any last comments anyone wants to make? Because it is 7:05 and Peanut Gallery is expecting me to take her for a walk. So we'll still have a couple minutes to chat. But anything anyone wants to say?
I'm
not
glad we were
sure.
able to do this and give Bear a break because he's definitely been on these things too long. So I'm glad Bear was able to take a break this week and just kind of relax. Guys, I can't. I don't want.
Bear, your mic was a little low. Could you turn that up?
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, turn it up for him. There we go. Can you hear that now? It's in stereo, fucker. Look, I really, I want to thank you guys for letting me pop in and jump in on this because
On your own show.
No, it's not, no. This is not my show. This is Brian's show tonight.
This is the special issue. Different editor.
This is what they used to have at Marvel, Assistant Editors Month.
Yeah.
They used to have, like, oh God, it's the Assistant Editors Month. What's going to happen? But I really needed this because I've had a shit day. Like, just everything was golden yesterday, and today it's like, oh, someone threw my golden shit. So, it was nice. Thank you for letting me jump in, guys.
Well, number one, this was not like I actually copied your channel description, so all of your links are down below. Why? Because I don't want you, I don't want anyone thinking that I was trying to take this and be like, okay, Bear started this, but I'm going to pull it over to my channel now. I've been having so much fun on Wednesdays with all of you guys that I understood, hey, Bear needs a break for whatever the reason is. He didn't tell us. He just says, hey, I'm going on hiatus.
Yeah. Cool.
I want to keep the band together so that when Bear's ready to come back, that all he has to do is say, hey, Four Color Cafe is back at Bear the Gen X GM this week. Cool. We're all still doing it. So
and
that's
I appreciate
why I did
that. I also like how you talked about me in the third person there. That really made me feel special.
Well, but I'm just that's what was going through my head.
No, I get you, man.
I'm glad you still joined us. But anyways, so
don't worry. I'm gonna spring for the even though I can't really spend any extra money right now, I'm gonna spring for the StreamYard subscription so we can do this thing where you guys are streaming it to your channels as well once I'm back. So we'll keep the ball rolling this way. I like this. It's nice seeing different names in the chat than what we normally get just on my channel. So it's cool.
Okay. All right. So then all right. So let's we'll just go clockwise from the top. Shill whatever you're going to shill. And we'll start with Sean.
I'm Sean with Mage's Musings. I guess my tagline is I do recaps, theory crafting, and general silliness. Tomorrow, 90%. If not, then Friday I will be posting my 1,000 subscriber celebration. Finally, it only took me 2 weeks to cobble that together. And I will be having my draws. So, I've done the draws, but they will be presented. So the winners of the giveaway, the 1,000 subscriber giveaway, will be revealed. Woohoo! So tune in.
Cody?
Yeah, well, so I don't have anything to fucking shill. I don't care. But
aren't you doing a live play Power Prowlers and Paragons on your channel?
Yeah, I am. I'm doing a live
half
play of Prowlers and Paragons every other week. It will not be this Sunday, next Sunday. Go check out the replay from the first episode. I'm also thinking of starting a second game to fill in the other weeks because I don't have a face-to-face game anymore because that group is disintegrated and I want to play more role-playing games. So I'll probably be running a second game. I haven't decided what that's going to be. And also been doing reviews and overviews of my favorite role-playing games. So come check it out if you want.
Len?
Hi. All right, games. You can find them online. I want to thank everybody for doing this. I want to thank Bear for having started this and for showing up because it's not the same without you. And if you haven't signed on to everyone else's channels, shame on you. Go subscribe. Thanks.
As a duly appointed subsidiary of Lakeside Games, please go to DriveThruRPG and purchase all of Len's games. For me, guys, I'm still on hiatus for a couple of weeks. No games, no live streams of my own creation, but we'll be back. I've already scheduled the first Coffee with Bear, so look for that on my channel. But more importantly, very soon, all this could be yours, as there's going to be a little bit of a fire sale coming up. I've already picked out the games I'm keeping, and they're my special jewels, and then everything else is going up for sale, and it won't be expensive. I need to generate cash, and this is the fastest way I can generate cash, is getting rid of some of these fantastic treasures behind me. So if you haven't joined the Discord, join the Discord, because that's where I'm going to be posting it. And every penny helps. It's all for a good cause. My life. So yeah.
The backdrop of your gamings is not going to be the same. It'll be
Well, when I move to the new place, I'm not going to be able to have that behind me anyway. So,
end of an era.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll
The
figure that
beginning
out.
of a better one.
So
But that's it. Yeah. And
All
don't
right.
subscribe to my channel. Don't.
Bear, stop it. Okay. Eventually I will fix the description to have tags for everyone else, but there is a tag for Bear's channel down there. Everyone, if you are not subscribed to Bear's channel, please go do so. Also subscribe to GM Cody and Mage's Musings, and also Gaming with ADHD, where we're hosting this special issue of the Four Color Cafe. But other than that, thanks so much, everybody. We absolutely appreciate you being here. This was a lot of fun. This went a little better than I was expecting, because I was expecting a hot mess, but it was an absolute blast. So I'm going to hit the end broadcast. It's going to end awkwardly.